Yo, what is good, folks? It's your boy Sports PSP. Hope everyone's enjoying a fantastic day. Got my man, undisputed world champ, in the building. How you doing, my brother?
Good night on Monday night. Great night enjoying Raw. Uh, hey, just enjoying this good weather down here in the springtime. Hope you having good weather up there in Jersey as well, man.
Please, 36 degrees. I mean,
Oh,
earlier 36 degrees right now. Earlier it was in 51, but it should be getting warmer as the week goes by. So I can't wait for that, man. Spring is here finally. Can't
yeah.
no longer have to deal with snow. No longer have to deal with cold weather. You lucky you in the best city in the world, Columbus, Georgia.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Um, I want to get your thoughts on the big news. The NFL, the owners, they approved of a new rule prohibiting the hip drop tackle rule. And I'm checking it out right now. Let me see if I get some of my information right here. Yes, here's is the description of the new rule. Let me see right here. If the defender grabs the runner with both hands or wraps the runner with both arms and unweights himself by swiveling and dropping his hips and or lower body, landing on and trapping the runner's legs at or below the knee, it's going to be a 15-yard penalty. So, champ, what were your thoughts regarding the hip drop rule?
How are you going to be able to tackle at this point? Because at this point, how are you going to catch a player from behind? I mean, they've already outlawed, and rightfully so, the horse collar tackle. So you can't
Right.
grab him by the shoulder pads and sling him down. I mean, so what are defensive backs going to do at this certain point? What are you going to do when a runner gets ahead of you? Are you going to shoestring tackle him? I mean, the thing is this: I believe the NFL has caught wind. The last couple of years, defense has been pretty much caught up with offense. The last couple of years, and it especially caught up with them this year, and it was so bad. Offense was so mediocre. I would say. I won't say it was bad to the point where you had a lot of these, and Cam Newton was right. Let's go back to that conversation. Well, a lot of
Game
game
manager, yeah.
managers were in the MVP race. I mean, the usual suspects were not in the MVP race. And even when you look at Lamar Jackson's season, when you look at it statistically, people are going to have to go back and look at the eye test when it comes to it because they're going to look at his stats this year and say they were mid. Now, us that watch the game actually know that that's not the case, but
Right.
they're going to look back on it statistically and say it's mid. But with this year, usually, because usually you'd have a deciding MVP at least by week 14. You'd be able to say, well, this is the guy's going to win the MVP on the offensive side of the ball.
Right.
We did not have that this year. We didn't have that explosion of offense. We didn't have that explosion. And I guess this is another way for the NFL to give the offense another upper hand because, like I said, how are you going to tackle at this point? I mean, how are you going to catch someone from behind? I mean, in a few years, in 2030, we're going to have flag football players making $130 million a year. Because the thing is, you might as well just put a mattress out there and just toss the guys on the ground because there's just no way that the defense can play defense now. I mean, the defense can't help that we caught up with the offense. But now that we've caught up with them, you take away one of our most valuable weapons, and that's tackling. I mean, you can't take it's not going to be a textbook tackle every single play. And I think this is the NFL. And another thing I think this is another way of the NFL throwing the players uh, under the bus was saying, well, it's your job to protect each other, not our job to protect you.
Mm, I agree with you completely. I mean, the NFL at this point, they should either do one or two things: either go to flag football, or they need to hug and kiss and sing "Kumbaya." That's
Yeah.
how it seems like to me. What else could you do to make the game safer? I understand no helmet to helmet because concussions, CTEs. I get that. I understand that defensive players cannot use their helmets and hit players below the belt. I understand that. I understand as it pertains to quarterbacks. You can't hit them helmet to helmet. You can't hit them below the knees. I disagree with the rule. I hate the fact that they can't land their body weight on them because how else are you supposed to get them down? Now with the hip drop tackle rule, I mean, it's getting to a point, champ. They should just throw away tackle football and just go to flag football. Because honestly, I don't know what more could you ask a defensive player to do. And the NFL owners are basically just doing this because of offense. They want offense, they want touchdowns, they want to see exciting, thrilling, offensive thrilling games. Like the Buffalo Bills versus the Kansas City Chiefs a couple of years ago in the divisional round when we saw Josh Allen go toe to toe with Patrick Mahomes, one of the greatest playoff games you will ever witness. And it's a slap in the face to defensive players. And this is why defensive players nowadays are viewed as afterthoughts, man. I mean, what more could you possibly do for a defensive player? I mean, people got to understand look, I understand you want to make the game safer, but the bottom line is when you step into a field, when you step into a sport like football, injuries occur. And even though, and again, no one is wishing injury upon anyone, but the bottom line is it's inevitable. That's part of the game. That's what comes along with it. I don't know at this point what the NFL is trying to do to make the game safer. I get the helmet to helmet, I get concussions, I get a lot of other things. NFL's just basically doing this for money, for ratings, for revenue and stuff, man. But it's just really terrible. And I don't think there's nothing that the NFL can do. And what's going to happen in pivotal situations if we're going to see controversial plays like the hip drop tackle, it's going to ruin the game. And we're going to have a lot of debates, a lot of discussions about this stuff. And Chip, as an ATL fan, you know this better than anybody else. Do you remember a couple of years ago the controversial call on Grady Jarrett on Tom Brady for roughing the passer?
How can I forget?
Grady Jarrett, you can't ask Grady Jarrett to demonstrate a better sack on Tom Brady in that game. But he was called roughing the passer. He didn't put his body weight on him. He didn't hit him below the belt. He didn't use his helmet to land on Tom Brady's helmet. He properly wrapped Tom Brady down to the ground, and Tom Brady had his weight on Grady Jarrett. What more could you ask Grady Jarrett to do in this situation? How are you? What are you gonna do?
Hey, I have to say this: there's a such thing as being a double-edged sword. You can want a lot of offense, but it's going to also turn your traditional football fans' face away from the game. I mean, more
Exactly.
offense attracts the casual fan, just like knockouts attract the casual fan with boxing. But I mean, you outlawing every tackle in the world is like taking the right hook away from a boxer. I mean, what you expect me to hit him with in order to knock him out? I can't hit him with an uppercut every time. So my thing is, yes, you can have the knockout punches on offense, but you at the same time you're trying to get more viewers to tune in because defense. Us being football savants and historians, we appreciate a good defensive game when it's 9-3 in the snow, and you're kicking field goals, and you might have one of the best offensive lines of all time going against a great defensive line. We can appreciate that, but this year, I think the thing that has really, really turned the NFL on its heel is trying to attract the more casual fan. And at the same time, you're turning the hardcore NFL fan away from
Traditional
the game.
fans.
Because the thing is, we watch it to see a good defense. We can appreciate a good defense. We can appreciate a good goal line stop. We can appreciate a good sack. We can appreciate a good interception. But I think one other thing that happened to the NFL this year is they are trying to bring a more casual audience into the fold, where we're just watching it just to say they're not really into it. They're just watching it to see how exciting it is. And I think, like I said, that could be a double-edged sword because the thing is, what's going to happen with the traditional fan? What's going to happen when they start boycotting it? Because I cannot tell you how many people that I've heard say, "Hey, it's time to boycott the NFL at this point. It's no longer the NFL."
Would
And
you
I'm
agree,
not going to
Zach?
be the bitter, and I'm not going to be the bitter old man and say, well, it's not the way it used to be. It's not supposed to be that way because it was the amount of players that have passed away and that have had brain injuries. It's not supposed to be as physical as it was in the 80s or the early 90s when I was growing up. It's not supposed to be that way. It's supposed to be a more safer game. But when you start taking away the essentials and the fundamentals of tackling, I learned how to do a hip drop tackle when I was in Pee Wee Football League. I mean, they show you, and they tell you football is a game of weight, football is a game of leverage. So you are essentially taking away everything that we've learned thus far from little league all the way up to dorm ball in college. You're taking away all of that as we speak right now. And for what? Just so you can say, okay, we got 1 million rate, we got another million people viewing the league, but we just lost 20 million in the process because football is not football anymore. You know what I mean? And this couldn't be at a worse time for the NFL at this point, because you have to think about this. College football has NIL now, so guys are
Right.
staying. Not to mention this 12-game playoff system in 2 more years is going to turn into a 14-game playoff system. So guess what? A lot more viewers are going to be tuning in to college football, depending on if they keep the hip drop tackle or not, because they may not outlaw it.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting point, Chad, because again, if they don't eliminate it, college football, if they don't eliminate the hip drop tackle, it's going to be great for college football. It's going to give more notoriety, it's going to get more attention.
Yeah,
But with the NFL, man, you obviously, I understand you're trying to do it for the casual standpoint, but when you're alienating traditional fans like us, we appreciate great defenses. Not every time you're going to have great games of 30, 35, 40 points. We don't mind those games as well too. We just love the pure nature of football, and if you eliminate those key essential fundamentals, then you're doing yourself a complete disservice. I do believe that some change is a good thing, but I do believe you're going too far. And I feel like there are some things you got to keep. Whether anyone likes it or not, football is a very violent, dangerous sport. And sports in general, when you step into the sports business, injuries come along with it. Whether anyone likes it or not, that is an accepted component in this business. And I don't know what the NFL can do as far as making it safer. I mean, they're trying to do everything they can, man, for fantasy football owners, for offense, quarterbacks, wide receivers, and all this other stuff. But it's a slap in the face to defensive players because now people are going to use this and question and say a lot of negative things about football in today's era. And they're going
yeah.
to say, oh, man. I mean, can you imagine guys like LT, Ray Lewis, Reggie White, Russell Soul playing in today's era? They would have a much more difficult time than it was back then because you couldn't get away with what you used to back then.
Yeah, it's in the great words of Paul Heyman, though, where there is chaos, there is opportunity. And this is a
Mm-hmm.
huge opportunity for the UFL at this point, because this is
USFL
your
as well too.
inaugural. Yes, this is your inaugural season of the USFL and the XFL being merged. So this is your grand opportunity in order to take advantage of the casual fan, of the hardcore football fan that loves the big hits, that loves the gladiator mentality in the sport. This is your grand opportunity, UFL, in order to seize the moment. You see how many people's faces are getting turned up at the NFL because of so many rules changes. So Mr. Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, this is your grand opportunity to bring some eyeballs to that league of yours by making sure that football stays a gladiator sport at this point in time. Because if you don't take advantage of this opportunity, if you don't take advantage of it right now as you speak, then it's a lost cause at this point in time. But like I said, this is a bad reflection on the NFL. I think that if the players really want to protest, and I know that's a very, very ugly word in this climate today, and in the NFL. But if defensive players really want to protest, they should just go ahead and say, "Hey, we just gonna tag the guy, and we're not gonna do anything after
Oh,
that."
don't expect offensive players to come protest with the defensive players because
Yeah,
they,
so
hey,
I don't expect any kind of unification, no type of solidarity, because the way
right.
offensive players, hey, the way offensive players are being viewed right about now. I mean, hey,
Especially quarterbacks. You don't
especially
expect the
quarterbacks. I
quarterback
mean,
to show solidarity.
yeah, I don't expect that. But if the defensive players wants to show, hey, we just gonna stand up and we just gonna walk off the field, I don't think this rule is gonna last very long though. I think in the very first game we'll have 20 penalties. We'll have
Oh
20
yeah.
penalties, and that's between the two teams. And that's if everything goes right.
And
But
especially the playoffs, though, Chad, because again,
yeah,
when it comes to pivotal situations, particularly playoff
mm-hmm,
games, oh my God.
yes, it's gonna get uglier than the masterpiece sneakers in a hurry. So it's gonna get real ugly. So I mean, and you're gonna have and they're not gonna think about they're gonna change the minute a controversial call comes back to bite a cash cow team in the NFL and cost them the Super Bowl or the playoffs. And it's gonna happen this year. They're gonna revisit that rule again next year. I mean, but how much do you want to ban at this point? I mean, you want to ban the hip drop tackle, the tush push. I mean, what is so if you what is so hard about the tush push? It's a very, very basic play. You get behind the guy and you
No,
push him.
the people just being petty.
I
People,
mean, it's just
but my thing is, Chad, Tom Brady did the sneak all the time. Okay, it worked all the time. My thing is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you're
mhm.
that petty, if you want to complain about that rule, that's you. I think they should keep it. I don't have a problem with it. If it works, works. I don't, even though it's like with basketball, I don't like the hack a Shaq philosophy. I don't like putting the worst free throw shooters at the free throw line. But hey, it works for the opponents because at the end of the day, we trying to win.
Yeah.
We trying to win. We don't give a damn how the fans, how the audience feels. We trying to win. If this is what it takes in order for us to win, even though the fans, the league may not like it, hey, so be it. You can't knock us for trying or capitalizing it.
Yeah. But like I stated earlier, man, it's a bad look on the NFL. You're taking away fundamental football away. But like I said, Dwayne, Mr. Johnson, if you're listening to this pod, this is a grand opportunity for you to be a perennial league at this point, because people are going to start looking for something different in a minute, and the UFL can be just that if you let it. Because the thing is, the National Football League is turning back to the no fun league that we saw back in the 80s.
Or not for long.
Well, not for long. So you're going to see a lot of fans turn their nose, especially some of the traditional fans. They're going to start turning their nose up at the NFL about some of these rules. So
Oh,
this is a
can you imagine the traditional fans not only in the football games but at the bars,
yeah,
all the other games?
all the other walks of life, So this is a grand opportunity for the UFL in order to turn the spring football league on its heel. And hey, one may never know. You may put yourself, it may be so good. And depending on how this year goes, especially with the UFL and the NFL, you may be able to cause a bidding war in a minute between whether college players want to go to your league or the NFL. You just never know, because at one point the USFL was just that. But with the league going in the direct, and that's why the original USFL was the way it was. That's why they were bidding players. They were bidding against the NFL because of certain players, because the NFL was deemed a no fun league and the USFL was all the fun to allow along. So this is a perfect opportunity for the USL, and the missed opportunity, a huge, big missed opportunity by the NFL, because they're turning with this rule alone. They have turned a lot of fans. They're turning a lot of fans away. I mean, big time fans.
And not only that, also an opportunity for college football to capitalize and put college football even more on the map.
Hey, there's some guy. Hey, there's already a lot of people, and I can speak on it because I'm a Southerner. There's a lot of Southern guys that don't watch pro football. I can attest to it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Southern guys, not even in my own family, that don't watch pro football.
Yeah.
I mean, even with the NIL and stuff going on. So my thing is this: if you and especially with them
That's
extending
like
the season,
religion down there in the South. If you go to
yes,
like
it's like a cult.
Georgia,
It's paid.
Alabama, Tennessee,
It's like a cult, but
yes.
but it's like it's crazy. But it's like, especially with college football extending, because it's no longer going to be just in January. Now it's going to be in February, and so hey, NFL man, you got to get it together. Otherwise, you're going to lose a lot of viewers to college football and the UFL at this point. And my thing is, things like this keep happening to soften up the game. Don't be surprised if the UFL start getting up there, because people are going to start looking for something different.
Hmm. Do you also think, Chip, that do you also think, and this may be a crazy question for me to ask, do you think it'll get football fans, traditional football fans, to watch different sporting leagues?
I mean, it'll get well during the month of August, and from August to December, football is king. I don't care who you are. But the thing is, they'll start looking for something different as far as college is concerned. Because when it comes to the NFL only had one major competitor that won against them, and that was the USFL. But I mean, as far as them looking at other sports, the only other sport I could think of during that time that could compete with the NFL is college football. And I think this is a grand opportunity with the 12 team playoff going into play, and eventually the 14 team playoff going into play. I think this is the perfect opportunity for, like I said, not only UFL but the USF, but the also college football to capitalize on this as well. I don't really think they're going to be anybody else is going to be paying attention to any other sport. I mean, even with the rule changes, because we saw what happened in the World Series last year, they had some of the lowest ratings probably ever at a certain point. And not only that, during that time, basketball season is during what we like to call garbage time. It's at the beginning of the season. Nobody really knows what's going on at a certain point in time with the league. It's just like everybody's watching, but they're not watching. So I don't think it's, and hockey's at the end of its road at that point as well.
What
So
about
the,
baseball?
like I said, baseball. Remember the word, but back then in October, the World Series is. Remember last year, the World Series they had the lowest ratings arguably ever.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really think another sport can compete with the NFL, but I think other football leagues, that being college football and the UFL, can compete with the in the NFL as far as viewers are concerned. Because hell, if you really want to be honest, college is neck and neck with pro football right now as far as viewers are concerned. And you got to think about, like I said, people are going to start looking for something different. If they another rule change, and people are going to start saying, you know what, this is not football anymore. We need to go somewhere else and take our money somewhere else. And hey, when you start losing money, you start changing rules.
You know what,
These big
champ is
dollars,
getting. I'm sorry. Go
these
ahead, man.
oh my bad, I apologize.
No, go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
These billion dollar stadiums don't pay for themselves. These
Oh
billion
no,
dollar
they
stadiums
don't.
do not pay for themselves. Tax money and fans pay for them. People think that the owners pay for them, but we the fans pay for them. Tax money and the fans pay for these stadiums. So guess what? Them fans ain't filtering to them stadiums to to see that product. USOL at a certain point.
You might as well watch high school football, especially if you go to certain states like Texas, because
Yeah.
you know how much they love themselves some football. I mean, when you go to a state like Texas, football is royalty. I mean, hey man, NFL not for long. I think they're gonna try it, and if it doesn't work out, you're gonna have a lot of fans complaining. Don't be surprised they go on Twitter, X, formerly known as Twitter, tweeting. Don't be surprised there's gonna be reels. Don't be surprised there's gonna be TikToks. And suddenly the NFL owners, they're gonna have to make a decision on what they're gonna have to do. I get it. You want to do everything you can to protect the product and make sure the offensive players are playing on that football field, but you're also diminishing traditional fans like us. You're also diminishing the great value that defensive players put forth on the football field. And if you do that, you're going to have a harder time. And people and traditional fans like us, we're going to spend more time watching college football or the XFL or the USFL or something else to do
Yeah.
if you continue to go down that road. Hell, it's a good thing for us. NCAA football 25. That video game is coming.
Hey, hey, didn't think about that. Did not think about that. That's a good one, PSP. Hey, hey, not to mention Monday night wrestling night.
Yeah.
Monday night wrestling night. So you start, and hey, there's been some nights on wrestling night that they have beat Monday night football in ratings. So I mean, don't be surprised if your fan base goes right over to the WWE. I mean,
Absolutely. Don't be surprised.
so
Don't be surprised
don't
at
be
all.
surprised.
Anyway, champ, always a pleasure having you on the pod, man. Y'all go follow my man, Undisputed World Champ. Go check him out. TikTok, Instagram. Go check out his YouTube, everything else. Any last words, my man?
PSP, thank you for always inviting me on your show, man. Highlight of the day, bro. I appreciate it.
Anytime, y'all. Y'all know where to follow me. Like and subscribe to the Sports PSP podcast on YouTube, also TikTok, Instagram. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all Monday evening. Don't forget Sports PSP podcast Friday night. We're gonna have more discussions about the hip drop tackle, and also too a little spoiler for Friday night. And I thought about this for Champ. We're gonna have our favorite Chappelle Show skit. So save that for Friday night on the Sports PSP podcast, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, only on YouTube. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all evenings and peace.